The clock is ticking for the U.S. as things continue to heat up in the current Iran-U.S. war. The Middle East is becoming more and more of a dumpster fire. If you're thinking, what else is new? Then you're in the right place, because I'm going to talk about what's new. What's up, YouTube? President Trump formally notified Congress over this past weekend that the war with Iran is back on. The letter said that the strikes starting on the 7th was military action consistent with the president's responsibility to protect U.S. interests. Seeing as how President Trump notified Congress in May that the war with Iran that started in February was over, this counts as a new war. So this is an official restart of the 60-day use of military clock. That would make today, July 15th, day 8 of this new war. As always, there's a lot going on concerning Iran. And be sure to watch to the end because something may be cooking a lot closer to home. But before you get into anything else, I want to take the time really quick to ask you to subscribe. It literally helps the channel grow and costs you nothing. And while you're at it, please like and share this video so that YouTube knows to show it to more people. Now that that's out of the way, Fox is reporting the first round of daytime strikes since the supposed ceasefire. I think that we all can agree that the ceasefire was a ceasefire in name only. It was nothing more than a pause between periods of active warfare. Putting that aside, it's hard to ignore that today's daytime strikes was just one indicator that things are escalating. According to this news from the International Business Times, President Trump held a meeting in the Situation Room to map out action plans for Iran. The article is relaying a report from Axios that said that the whole cast of characters was on hand. It was everyone you would expect from the VP, Marco Rubio, Hegseth, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and others. Apparently this meeting happened yesterday, Tuesday, July the 14th, and focused on plans to hit strategic targets if things to continue to escalate. Just going on what we were seeing, I think that those plans may be needed because Trump is warning Iran of consequences of not returning to negotiations. CNN is saying that President Trump is threatening to hit Iranian power plants and bridges next week unless Iran doesn't do exactly that. He said that things will get very bad for Iran if they don't return to the negotiating table. If the U.S. starts hitting power plants, things could get really bad indeed. Weather.com had a 10-day forecast for Tehran, showing highs over 100 all but 2 days. Iran Observer is saying that Iran's deputy foreign minister said, quote, wherever the Americans strike, our armed forces will respond in the same manner. He seems to be threatening the bridges and power plants of the surrounding nations. This wouldn't be out of character for Iran, as they have been lashing out at everyone around them this whole time. And then there's this. President Trump saying that we are going to hit Pickaxe Mountain. If you don't know what Pickaxe Mountain is, it is an Iranian nuclear facility that is literally deep under a mountain. The facility is buried so deep that everyone thinks that our largest bunker busters won't even touch the place. That would leave two options if the U.S. actually intends to take the place out. Neither of the two that come to mind are good. One is physically sending in troops to fight for every inch of tunnel till they reach the objective. The other option is unthinkable. In response, Iran ratcheted up the rhetoric when an advisor to Iranian Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf said that if the U.S. strikes Pickaxe Mountain, the Middle East, quote, will turn to hell. The war of words is nothing new, but now it seems that the words are starting to be followed by actions a bit more, and with some of the things that Iran is threatening right now, this is a cause for concern. Just like this proposal to invade a U.S. base by an Iranian lawmaker from earlier today. The plan, according to the New York Post, would be to invade a U.S. base in the region, kidnap 100 American servicemen, and hold them hostage in Tehran. Something tells me that this guy isn't serious, or maybe he just didn't think this plan all the way through. If this plan were to be acted upon, I don't see it going the way that he thinks it would. This would be a major ground operation to say at the least, with the potential for significant loss of life. Iran has been targeting American bases in the region for days. There is nothing like someone shooting at you to encourage one to be on the lookout for anyone that wishes you ill. Then there is the unintended consequences of success on the part of Iran. If they were somehow to pull this off, do they actually think that the United States will just go along with Iranian demands? This would just be a case of Iran leaping over several rungs on the escalation ladder. The people responsible for any such action may just find themselves negotiating face to face with American special forces. What Iran would most likely accomplish is handing over justification for a boots on the ground situation. I think this is just domestic saber rattling. The more realistic threat is the threat to cut off export routes for oil and gas. Iran isn't happy with the resumption of the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports. Just today, it was reported by I-24 News that the blockade turned back 2 ships attempting to run said blockade. That prompted Iran to make threats that if Iran can't export oil and gas, that, quote, other export routes for oil and gas which serve the interest of America and its allies will be closed, including the UAE's Fujairah pipeline and Saudi East-West pipeline. Now, the Hormuz letter is reporting that a source close to Galaboof is saying that the IRGC hit the Fujairah port in the UAE with a missile. This has brought the port to a complete halt. This attack comes after Iran's threat to choke off alternate export routes. The Hormuz letter also reported that the port is the Gulf's largest oil bypass, and closing it down removes about 6 million barrels of oil from the market per day. That fact is worrying because the Financial Times is reporting that oil traders are warning that supplies are close to running dry. To make matters worse, Iran is now threatening Bab el-Mandeb. If you are unfamiliar with the name, it's another strategic waterway connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf that also is very important for oil export. Take a look at this post from Press TV. The claim in the image isn't unrealistic. If Iran, via the Houthis, closed a waterway, oil could easily go to $200 a barrel. That would make a global economic crash completely within the realm of possibility. Closing Bab el-Mandeb would be a step that the world couldn't ignore, and that's what Iran would be counting on. Would that go the way that they expect, and the world put pressure on the Trump administration to give in? We would have to see. I think that you would agree that we have witnessed all kinds of things over the last few years that we never thought would happen. In the meantime, President Trump is again saying that Iran has called him up, begging to make a deal. Everyone has seen or heard this by now. It's not deja vu. The shooting started a few days ago, and the price of oil has gone up, so this claim is right on schedule, just like the denial from Iran. We have witnessed this cycle of events over and over again, and just like clockwork, it has started once again. Tell me in the comments, do you think it will be different this time? Does Iran want to make a deal, or is there something more? Is this nothing more than price manipulation to keep a lid on oil prices? This isn't the only thing that President Trump has had to say today. According to ABC, he has also said that the U.S. may want to wipe out the IRGC just like ISIS. I-24 News is reporting that he also weighed an expansion of the ongoing military action to include more strikes and possibly even ground action. I would call ground action escalation by any definition of the word. And just so that no one feels left out, there is a report from open source intel that Hezbollah is preparing to attack Israel. The post says that Armin News, which is an Emirati outlet, goes on to say that Hezbollah is just waiting for the go-ahead from Tehran. If this is true, then it indicates that Iran is calling up all of their terrorist BFFs to include the Houthis and not just Hezbollah to lend a hand. All these things absolutely would constitute an escalation in the Iran-U.S. war, but we can't lose sight of what may be in the works closer to home. CBS News is reporting that in recent weeks, senior Pentagon officials have examined possible military action against Cuba. The options discussed include sending in thousands of soldiers from the 101st Airborne. Now, this article does go on to say that their sources have said that nothing is currently in the works. We have too many resources deployed to the Middle East right now, but the idea is being talked about, so the eventual possibility is there. I would think that if this were to happen, it would be much further down the road. From the looks of things, Iran is going to dominate U.S. military attention and resources for the foreseeable future. We just can't lose sight of the fact that we can't have tunnel vision when it comes to things that could affect our lives. I was going to end for the night right here, but as I was prepping this video, fresh reports started coming in of Iran lashing out to many U.S. military bases in the area. An IRGC spokesman has reported this, saying that any prolonged conflict would lead to next steps. Not sure what he means by that, but we may find out sooner rather than later, as other reports are coming in of U.S. retaliation. TASM News is reported as saying that the U.S. is hitting numerous Iranian locations. The post from open source intel indicates that we are talking about IRGC ports and military capabilities. This would make sense and fit nicely with this story from the Jerusalem Post. U.S. strikes on Iran strengthen Trump's options for new escalation. Basically, the story says that the U.S. is going after targets that give President Trump more options in the future. For example, taking out coastal defense sites would make any amphibious landing of Marines much easier. I'm not saying that Marines are about to land on Iranian coast, but taking out those sites would make it easier in that event. This is an ongoing situation, and as such, what we know is limited at the moment. So that's all I have for now, and I'm going to call it a night. Be sure to follow so you don't miss any videos. With that, I'm out for now.
Thanks for watching. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.